very, very brief overview of how this pandemic, the post-pandemic world, has impacted the consumer trends and the employee trends across the world. It's important for us to talk about this because the post-pandemic world is actually very different from the pre-pandemic world. There is a very, very clear behavior shift that we've seen across the globe, not just in the West, but very much in Bangladesh and South Asia and India, where I come from. In all our parts of the world, we've seen a big behavior shift of people moving towards cleaner living. There is a high demand for highest standards of hygiene, cleanliness, and health consciousness. Yeah, there is a huge premium, and thankfully so now, on health and wellness trends, which are both within the corporates and outside of corporates. And when you talk of health, it's now being looked at in a much more holistic manner. You're talking about physical health, you're talking about mental health, you're talking about social, financial health, and the impact of all this in the world around us. Earlier they used to say that the world is VUCA, okay? VUCA standing for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And this term VUCA was coined around, in the 80s, 1980s, around the post-Cold War era. And, that's how the world was referred to. Now, from VUCA, the world has changed to BANI, okay, BANI. And I'll tell you the full form. It stands for brittle, okay, because things which used to appear as very, very solid have now, shown that they can also crumble down completely, and nothing is solid anymore. It's all brittle. That's the first word of BANI, brittle. The second word is anxious. This breaking down of structures, breaking down of seemingly solid world around us has led to a lot of anxiety in people around us. And that is what the A stands for, which is anxious. And the N in BANI stands for non-linear, because we've realized that the cause and effect are no longer linear. There are many ways and many sort of linkages that you see to things, and and relationships are more and more non-linear compared to what they used to be earlier. And I, of course, stands for incomprehensible, because things which seemed very easy and straightforward, are no longer assumed to be straightforward. So the world has become far more BANI, okay, which is brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. And this is a completely new sort of a trend which has impacted everything that we do. So we've moved from, towards trends which are more healthy lifestyle oriented, which are clean planet oriented, which are more everything, whether it's shopping or therapies or sort of connect sessions, everything has moved to E-commerce, of course, is booming completely out of the window for most of the companies like ours. And last but not the least, there is a lot of fear factor, because there is still a lot of uncertainty. We don't know whether there's going to be one more mutation. There's Omicron, which is wreaking havoc right now in our part of the world, in South Asia, in India, in Bangladesh. The positivity rate as we speak is more than 30% for the country, for Bangladesh. And the fear factor of what's going to happen next, how is this going to impact the economy? Is everything going to go back to normal? Is the GDP going to grow the same way? Is inflation going to go out of the window? These sort of uncertain questions are looming large everywhere. And this is really, really changing the way consumers are interacting with brands, the way they are consuming brands going forward. And if I was to just take this to the next level of key employee trends in 2022, and I look at the top 10 employee trends, two of them which really, really stand out for me and are very important in the context of today's discussion are employee well-being and hybrid work model. And I will be talking about both of them. Of course, apart from them, there are lots of other key employee trends coming up, and corporates and employees are watching out for them, including your skill development and, analytics, all of that. But For today's discussion, I will focus a lot on employee well-being and hybrid work model. And employee well-being is no longer a good to have. Yeah, it's a must-have for every organization. And it's very simple. There are about 35% of the professionals across the globe. They feel 35% of professionals actually feel that COVID has impacted their lives extremely negatively, and that has impacted their anxiety levels. It has impacted their mental health, given them depression or whatever, basically some sort of stress. And that is very, very clear, not just in one part of the world, but very much all over the world. Closer home also, 1 in every 4 Bangladeshi feels that they have been impacted, and their mental health has suffered, and it ranges from anxiety, depression, stress, and goes all the way to suicidal tendencies. And this is data, hard data. The impact of COVID-19 on economies, has been so huge. It's been estimated to be $1 trillion. This is the impact of depression and direct and indirect impact of depression and mental health illness related things which have been put together. And this, even in the last presentation, if you paid attention, it's close to about 3 to 4% of GDPs, varying from country to country. So it is a huge issue. It is no longer a good to have, it's a must have, and it is very much at the center of the plate when it comes to employee trends for the next year. And therefore, all organizations need to focus on this area. They cannot afford to treat it like an extracurricular activity. It is a must-have. Employee assistance programs are a must-have. Support groups are must-have. And organizations need to systemically arrange and create space for employee well-being initiatives.